Obviously, just kind of kicking it off. Hope to kind of obviously have a chance to score a few more points in the second half and really piggyback on what I thought was a really strong defensive performance in the first half. A lot of guys flashed as far as helping us try to stay in that game where we were just trying to find a rhythm offensively that we really never found outside of that one drive towards the end of the second quarter. Just across the board, just waiting on that one play. Who's going to make that one play to get us going? It starts with me, and we got to be able to, from every guy on our roster needs to feel like they're in a position to go out there and compete. And we felt like we had a good plan going into it, but ultimately just execution was not enough offensively. And then I think our defense just wore down. 3 turnovers, short fields, different things that right when we could kind of stand up and get some momentum going, it just did not happen tonight for us. So we'll continue to, a lot of battles going on our roster right now to make our team. I want to continue to allow those guys to compete while also still making sure that our starters, coming off a great week of practice against a really good team, I really felt like there was a lot of good things done this week. Ultimately wanted to win this game tonight, and we did not.
How was the early read on Andrew Bruce?
Yeah, it was kind of that same ankle he's kind of dealt with. It sounds like it's a positive thing from a standpoint of, just an aggravation of an injury that we kind of know about already. He's worked his way through that throughout camp. And then ultimately what it'll be is just how that thing looks the rest of the week. Early on in the week, love to still get him some work, obviously, throughout this week as we continue to prep. So we'll see where he's at. I'll get with Tyler and Uriah, and I'll keep you guys posted as the week goes on.
What's your assessment of the 2 backup quarterbacks tonight?
Yeah, I thought, first things first, it can be difficult sometimes when you're in a quarterback competition and you're kind of rotating in and out. Getting into a rhythm and really getting into the flow of the game. Sometimes you feel like you're one play away from really getting going. And I felt like both guys, at times tonight had good rhythm and good command. We just couldn't make that one play, that one third down conversion, make that one throw, make that one, play to kind of trigger and ignite the offense that we really needed. And probably could have, run the ball a little bit more to kind of establish a little bit more of a flow, but we're trying to see who our backup quarterback's going to be. So I want to give those guys opportunities as well as the back end who's going to make our team at the receiver position. So we feel great about the running backs. I know, Kene and Ty, are day in and day out showing a lot of great things for us to go along with Alex and obviously Dalvin Cook being the special player he is. And I think Kobach's a solid, depth player in that room that a lot of people will probably have their eyes on if he's unable to be on our team. I sure hope we can keep everybody. But ultimately, we just got to be better. Going back to the quarterbacks, I think in the end, we're trying to see who can come off the bench and help us win a football game. And we'll go back and watch it and coach those guys up hard. I know I can obviously be better for them with some better timely play calls to maybe get them going, but for the most part, we just got to try to continue to improve and limit the turnovers and see who can win this thing.
Kevin, on Kellen Mond, how would you evaluate his play? Just didn't seem to have the same confidence or zest that he had, last week.
Yeah, he was always, when I think back on Kellen's night, obviously he's moving the team on that first drive of the night. We get into a third down there, kind of in their half of the 50, chance at maybe getting some points. And the pocket kind of collapses on him. That's playing in the NFL. And can you, be compact? Can you find a way to get that ball thrown to the open receiver without your arm getting tipped? I'll go back and see kind of what happened protection-wise. But ultimately, I just think that's playing in this league, and we're in kind of that fringe field goal range. Can we secure points? Can we be safe with that ball? And then, obviously the last interception, I think he just kind of lost track of where that post safety was and just tried to press to make that play that we were trying to make all night.
Kevin, what did you learn about the receivers that you were hoping to learn more about?
Yeah, I thought on that drive, to kind of go score, Amir had some kind of nice timely catches on that drive, really coming off of his punt return where he kind of got us some yards back after fumble in the previous one. I did like seeing him respond that way. I think Jalen Naylor, getting into the game and obviously Flash didn't always get it, when maybe he had a chance to. But ultimately, I think right now when I look at that room, I see BC doing consistent things, doing so many things to help our offense. Amir's got pure ability that everybody can see. And then you just continue to look at the, Myron Mitchells and the Tristan Jacksons and then Jalen Naylor and these guys. I just see just everybody fighting and competing. And I felt that group pressing a little bit tonight, but across the board, we feel very good about our depth there, and they're going to get one more op against a really well-coached team in Denver. Know a lot of those guys, and coverage structure-wise will be similar to what they practice against. So hopefully we can turn those guys loose and let them go win some jobs.
You mentioned trying to give the quarterbacks opportunities to move the ball down the field. Does that change the play calling at all for you if you're calling more passes than you might otherwise if you're
– Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's some times where – you're having some dialogue with the staff of, plays that you might get to for certain guys. And then simply it just ends up being, hey, you don't really feel like I don't want this guy's next throw to be a 3rd and 6. So I'm trying to give him an op to maybe throw some quick game, throw some screens, throw some different things to put the ball in play to try to get in that rhythm, knowing that we're probably going to be rotating those guys. So a lot of times you selfishly kind of just for their sake want to try to help them get into that rhythm. So maybe play calling tends to, sway that way. But ultimately, I know I've got a lot of confidence in our running backs. I got a lot of confidence coming off of last week in, our depth there at the O-line, especially that second group to go run the football. I'm trying to still figure out some things, in other areas of our team that kind of, weigh heavily sometimes in some of the decisions we make.
Did the joint for a lot of young players, but what's it like? I mean, how cool is it to see kind of a journeyman veteran like T.Y. McGill and what he's been able to do?
He's one of those guys that flashed to me. I mean, he obviously wrecked multiple plays tonight. Had the sack and a half. It's the plays that don't register on the stat sheet when you see him just explode through the line, forces the back to bounce, and then you see BA and the rest of and Troy and those guys running down plays. That's all because of the impact that those guys are having up front. I think, he's had a really good camp. He's flashed in both games now, really, when I go back and think about it, among other guys as well. But it's really cool to see a guy like that, understand the op he may have and ultimately capitalize on it by performances like tonight.
Kevin, with the joint practices, did that play a role in the 27 players not playing tonight? And then also, moving forward, do you think we'll see any of the marquee starters against Denver in the preseason finale?
Yeah, 80-plus plays, a little over 48 hours ago for our ones against another team's ones. I knew kind of planned long ago that we would kind of handle this week like this. Our game reps took place, at our facility this week in that competitive environment that we were able to bring in. It was phenomenal to bring a team like the Niners in for those reps. I feel like our team improved. Those starters got a lot of work and a lot of great competitive work. Thought Kirk had a really good week of practice against a really good defense, really good front that can consistently get pressure. We'll continue to kind of assess and evaluate what next week looks like. We've got kind of a pretty structured plan in place for this week to ultimately, make sure we're getting the amount of reps for those guys that we kind of planned coming into camp to have them ready to go with our eye ultimately circled on September 11th.
With a guy like McGill who has played so well, maybe a lot of the snaps so far in preseason have come against backups. How do you evaluate the potential and like what you see there versus if you might need him in a role against starting level competition in the season?
Yeah, we do quite a bit of ones versus two work in practice. So he's had multiple days working against our first team offense, and I asked those offensive linemen, who's sticking out to you guys as far as somebody that's tough to block, who feels heavy in those combinations that you guys can, they're going back and talking amongst themselves. Ty's a problem, and so you start hearing some of that. You start showing the team some of these clips of guys making plays in those periods where the ones are going against the twos, and then it's not a shock to you when he comes out here and does it. Maybe against guys listed similar on the depth chart, but he's still making a lot of plays and showing up in my eyes.
What did you see out of Evans tonight in both coverage, run support, and then he knocked the ball out late too?
Yeah, I thought that punch out would have been big for us to kind of like the Dorn's hit against the Raiders late last week. Had we gotten that one, maybe we're able to put together a drive there and go try to tie it, or maybe go for two and win that thing. But yeah, I think across the board, I think he's such a talented, player for us to continue to just wrap our arms around and try to develop on a daily basis. We want to get him a lot of reps. There's a reason why he was out there. I'm sure there'll be a lot for him to correct, either fundamentally or with his eyes, or just situationally understanding, how we can tighten up in some spots. But I thought he was willing tackler. I mean, they were running the ball hard there in the second half, and guys were showing up trying to, throw their hat in there a little bit. So I think, our defense for me tonight, I just feel like we kind of left them on the field too much. Even when you're subbing, tonight was about our offense not sustaining enough to give ourselves a chance to win the football game.
With Mannion starting the fourth quarter, what went into the decision to have Mond come in with about 4 minutes left?
Yeah, it was, we're just working off of snaps and kind of seeing the one thing the Niners did, although our defense had a really strong first half in my eyes, they possessed the ball a ton in the second half. I mean, at one point we were even time of possession, and they ended up almost 14 minutes ahead on that. And that all took place really in the third quarter, into the fourth quarter. Just massive drives, just eating clock. And when you go 3 or 4 plays and out, at one point, we were into the fourth quarter and had run 7 plays. So it's just not enough plays. We're right at 50 again tonight. Would love to see that number around 60 plus. And it comes with more execution on third down. And then it obviously comes with limiting the turnovers to be able to finish drives with points when you do get in their half.
What did you like about what Mannion did, though, on the touchdown drive?
Yeah, I just thought, with Sean, the consistency of, when you call something, you feel strongly about the execution level being high because he's going to communicate, articulate that play, and then he's going to go out and do his job. I think Sean's at his best when he doesn't try to do too much. He throws completions and puts the ball in play to the guys around him. Helps lead the charge from a communication standpoint. He's a very smart player, and you feel that veteran presence when he's in there with those guys. But ultimately, would have loved to see a couple more drives like that for both him and Kellen. But it was nice to see. They're playing some nickel defense to some 12, and we kind of finished that drive, kind of running that in with some physicality. Was really good to see.
Without Irv Smith, what depth do you think you've created at the tight end position, and what has Ben Ellison provided at that position?
Yeah, I'm excited to get Irv back. Hopefully here we'll start seeing him back on the grass with our guys in the next few days. And then I think Johnny Munt's been rock solid for us. And then Ben's had a great camp. I really look at Ben right now as a jack of all trades, the way he's able to really impact the game in the run game. Play pass, everybody wants to run play pass and marry the run in the pass. I said this week, but that requires those guys to have to block pass pro against some good outside players, rushers, and he's held up. He had some great reps against these very Niners in practice where I don't know if many guys in this league can hold up against some of their guys, and he's sticking his face in there and competing through the down, giving us a chance to push the ball down the field. Obviously, Zach Davidson tonight would have loved to see him finish a couple more plays, and he kind of like he's done throughout training camp for us. I'm sure Zach will be ripping ready to go, at Denver next week to try to go make some of those plays back, and I'm sure he will. He's had a good solid camp for us, and expect him to be right there along with Muse and Sean Byer.
Last question. Kevin, do you feel at this point like you're comfortable with your backup quarterback situation, or could it be a possibility where you look beyond these guys to look at options there?
Yeah, ultimately, I you would have loved to come out of the night feeling like, shoot, they both moved the team and scored a lot of points, and we've got a heck of a hard discussion and conversation ahead as a staff and as an organization. Although we didn't do that, I still think there's some real teachable, moments, and then some real moments where we'll be able to evaluate and kind of really look at where we are at that position as we kind of restack everything to go into this week to see how we need to allow those guys to compete. Because as we've talked about, in my mind, the clock is going, and although I feel like our starters are in a great spot for September 11th, and that's where our emphasis is really on. There's a lot of jobs we got to still allow to play themselves out, so we feel good about the overall depth of our team, and we'll certainly allow that to happen this week.